Hello, I am Ikna Jiyan. I'm a clinical neuropsychologist, graduated with a psychology degree. And then I did my master's in University of Padua, Italy, in clinical neuropsychology and cognitive neuroscience. Currently, I work at Joy Center, Germany, which is a multidisciplinary clinic. And I work with children, adolescents, and families. And today we're going to talk about pareidolia. Pareidolia is the tendency to perceive familiar objects or meaningful shapes from random or meaningless visual or auditory stimuli. The human brain is constantly searching for patterns or meaning in vague or ambiguous stimuli, and this process is something we frequently encounter in everyday life. Sorry. Seeing faces or animals in cloud shapes, perceiving human profiles in rock formations, or recognizing human faces in everyday objects are some of the most common examples of pareidolia. The concept of pareidolia consists of three concepts. So one of them is perceptual illusion. Pareidolia is a type of perceptual illusion where the brain attempts to make sense of random sensory input by imposing familiar patterns. Evolutionary adaptation, the ability to quickly identify faces and patterns may have developed as an evolutionary survival mechanism. Because we have evolved as to stay alive and reproduce, and in order to do so in a normal condition, if we don't have any psychological or neurological conditions going on, we are attached to our environment for cues to stay alive. And creativity catalyst. Pareidolia can stimulate imagination and inspire artistic expression by prompting new ways of seeing the world. So this is also linked to unconscious in psychoanalytic perspective. Pareidolia offers significant insights into the workings of human perception and cognitive processes. Psychologically, pareidolia stems from the brain's tendency to attribute meaning to vague and undefined stimuli. This is again to interpret the world around us and to stay alive. This phenomenon is also linked to evolutionary functions, such as quickly recognizing dangers and analyzing social environments. Due to the heightened sensitivity of the facial recognition system in particular, there is a strong tendency to perceive face-like shapes because we are human. While pareidolia is considered a common perceptual illusion, it is not a sign of psychological disorders. Rather, it can be viewed as a part of a creative cognitive process. So we have the psychological aspects of pareidolia. First is pattern recognition. Pareidolia is linked to the human brain's innate ability to identify patterns, even in random or ambiguous stimuli. And two is cognitive bias. It can be viewed as a cognitive bias where the brain makes assumptions and connections that may not reflect reality. The reason it's called a bias is because we all perceive differently from each other. That's why it's called perception, not seeing something. Then emotional response. The perception of familiar shapes and patterns can elicit emotional responses such as a nostalgia, fear, happiness, and other emotions because they are integrated in the brain together as they are working together. So this is about our experiences in memory are linked to the other elements, which is memory is linked with hippocampus in the brain. So it's linked to the other elements of that particular experience, visual and auditory stimuli, smell, taste, and so on. So this prepares us also for predators. So this is also evolutionary, we can say. So this prepares us also for predators and the next experiences that we will encounter. Then we have the clinical implications. In certain clinical contexts, pareidolic experiences may be associated with underlying neurological, neuropsychological, or psychological conditions. Here we can give psychosis, hallucinations, schizophrenia, being under drugs or medications, and so on, as an example of these conditions. So here we need to understand first how our brain is mainly organized as a quick review. So we have the brain structure and neural correlates. So we have 4 lobes in our brain: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. In frontal lobe, it's responsible for executive function, high cognitive processes, attention, and emotion regulation. And this is the newest one because it has evaluated as the latest. Then parietal lobe is responsible for visual spatial skills, knowing where our body parts on space, knowing where my pen on the space or my book. Then occipital lobe is responsible for visual processing, among the other things. And then temporal lobe is responsible mainly for emotions, auditory processes, and fusiform face area that we will talk about in the next slides. Because we are going to first talk about occipital lobe. So, occipital lobe is located here in the back of the brain, and we have where pathway and what pathway. So where pathway is the dorsal visual stream, which is linked to the parietal cortex. So meaning that our parietal cortex is here, and frontal here, occipital here, and of course both sides, and temporal is close to here if I would show mainly. So the dorsal visual stream is meaning that from occipital lobe, it goes to the parietal cortex. Some neurons are working together to the top. And in what pathway? The ventral visual stream is called. It's linked to the temporal cortex, which is here. It goes from there and to there. So this is responsible for object recognition. So stream means basically neurons connect and work together in a way that these functions can happen. So that's why it's called a stream. At first one, in where pathway, there is a mechanism that processes visual data with its location in space. This helps us identify where an object is located in the space, for instance. And the latter, what pathway, helps us identify what that object or a thing is. So is responsible for object recognition. It helps me to understand when I see this, okay, this is a pen. I say that. So I recognize objects. Then we have the fusiform face area, which is really important to stay alive. So it is located in the temporal lobe in the ventral visual stream in fusiform gyrus, Brodmann area 37. So this is some neuroanatomic information. And is a region located in the fusiform gyrus of the brain that plays a critical role in recognizing and processing faces. This area is associated with the ability to distinguish human faces from other objects. So it helps you to distinguish my face as a human, my face from your cat's face, for instance. So this is essential for social interactions. The FFA is connected to the visual cortex and interacts with other brain regions, particularly the limbic system, which is really important again. Is responsible for identifying and processing emotions mainly. So these connections contribute to the processing of emotional content in faces also. So when you look at my face, you distinguish that I am a human, but at the same time, you can say that if you don't have any psychological condition. You can say that if I'm mad, sad, happy, or, etc. So it's here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. So FFA is here. We have the visual cortex. This is the occipital one. This is parietal. This is frontal. And here is the temporal one. And this is cerebellum. And we have the prefrontal cortex here, which is mainly responsible for high executive function. So the pathways are going from there to there and there to there. So we have some pictures here, for instance. We can discuss together if you want. So I see a smiley face on that door, and here, for instance, a pig. But someone else can see something else, and then we have these pictures. For instance, in this picture, what takes your attention the most at first sight?
Any answers? She can hear you.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, so the tongue, this is like tongue, and it's also red, so it takes your attention at the same time. So here also we see kind of a robot, maybe we can say, and who is dancing. So, and here we have the giggling roof. So we love that one, I think. I think it's cute and very funny. So, and then, for instance, here, everyone can see different things, I think. So here we have faces, but there are other faces in the picture as well. So some people may not perceive it, and some people may see all of them, or see one thing that no one else can see. So this is also about perception that we have talked about. And here also, actually, this reminded me of Kurabiye Canavarı, Cookie Monster. So, yeah, and this is, for instance, this scares me. So also when we see something, it makes us feel something at the same time when we look at something. Because if we see faces, we are mirroring that expression to understand, to make empathy at the same time. Here we have in architecture, for instance, I think this one looks like Squidward and Squidward's house in SpongeBob. So, and this is like a robot. So, if you have any comments, you can share. If you see something else. Do you have any comments?
First picture look like bird.
I think so.
The first one looks bird. They say.
Yes,
Jump.
because of the
In the
mouth.
right, in the right picture, I saw two curious eyes with a big mouth.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Like old, that old. It's going right. Yes, it's old.
The old, yes. The right one is like a old.
Any more comments? So we can shift to the next one. So here, I found the right one, for instance, interesting because we see this every day. It's a zip. So if it's winter, I mean, now it's winter here. So we see this every day, but I never saw it like this. So it's a perception. Someone perceived it this way and took a photo of it. And we see kind of a fishy face, I can say. Also here. So we have a shocked face here and angry face. So, pareidolia and the creative process. Pareidolia can spark the imagination and inspire new creative ideas by revealing unexpected patterns and forms. And artists may intentionally incorporate pareidolic elements into their work to engage the viewer and prompt deeper interpretation. Exploring the boundaries of perception through pareidolia can lead to innovative and unconventional artistic expressions. An attentive observation of the world around us can reveal a wealth of pareidolic patterns and shapes to incorporate them into art. So here we have some examples of that. So some artists have created some artworks here. So these were before all ordinary different things in the street. So they perceived it and add some creativity, and then they converted it into an artwork. So your perspective can change the whole image. It's true, basically. So we have therapeutic applications of pareidolia. Actually, this is also considered into the art therapy. So first is self-reflection. Engaging with pareidolic imagery can promote self-exploration and introspection, leading to personal growth and insight, such as Rorschach test. So this is also, we can say, unconscious, because it's like when you think of something, you have some things that you actually don't know, and it's on the unconscious part that you're affected by many things: your social norms, your friends, family, growth style, lifestyle, and so on. Emotional expression, the process of creating and interpreting pareidolic art, can serve as a therapeutic outlet for emotions and feelings. And mindfulness. Observing and contemplating pareidolic patterns can cultivate present moment awareness and a sense of wonder, which helps you to have an insight and understand yourself better again. So, I put here an exercise, kind of a mini exercise. So, in mindfulness, in fact, there is an exercise that you can do whenever you feel stressed or you need or want it. So, it's called five senses exercise. In this way, sorry, in this way, we can direct our attention, train it, and reduce our stress a little bit. So first, you can try this when you go out also. First, you see. So it's about focusing the environment, observing shapes and colors. When you look at an object, you just, for instance, I have a pen. I observe its shapes. I really concentrate to that. And I look at its colors. So this is about seeing. It can take 5 minutes, half an hour, if you want, or as long as you wish. Here, is a kettle boiling? Is it raining? What about the birds? Can you hear leaves rustling? So you direct your attention to your auditory senses. And touch. Leaves, soft toys, fabrics, marble, and Velcro, because these are all different. These all have different type of textures, as you may know more than those, I think, because you're architectures. So, and smell. Try to focus on the smells around you. Close your eyes if it helps. If possible, choose a natural scent that you like, because this also um, exacerbates the other elements in the brain and helps you to focus your attention to something else. And taste. The taste that remained in your tongue. If you drank coffee or tea, like trying to feel it, or anything you remember when you tasted it. So you can use this technique in one object or interchangeably as desired. You can use in pen, you can use in birds, looking at a bird and trying to sense the five components of our sensation. So it's up to you. But it's a good exercise. I recommend it. Sometimes it works. So here we have Kandinsky's painting. So maybe Ekin Hocam, if you want to make a comment on that.
What do we see here? Let's have a look all together then. I mean, I see a board. Maybe everyone sees that board with black and white, and it reminds me of playing chess. And I see some eye. There is one eye actually. It reminds me of, let's say, what is it? What does it call in our culture? That big, yeah. And what else? What else I see? I see mountains all in the circle there, and I see kind of sun kind of shapes which are in circles. You see the planet? Yes, I was just gonna say that. I saw the planet as well. Let's see it more by
Benim yaparken resmi yaparken şey var da.
that thing. I don't know the name, but planet. Okay. What else?
I see a zebra.
You see a river. Where is it?
Next left to the eye, it looks like a zebra's foot.
Okay.
Something like.
Sure, clear. Well, like white and white, like look like flag. Drive. I said yes. You saw it too.
Beş bin.
Fresh bin. Where is it? Oh, nice. It's like dark.
I saw letter A in the pen.
Little A. A. The letter of A.
I see a lamppost across the entire painting, a long black light, and on top there is this orange that looks like sun. That's the electrical post.
Oh, yeah, good. Look on the street. Well, I see a door there, maybe. I see kind of a jail. Maybe possible here.
Okay, we can continue the other painting.
Okay.
Okay. And there are achievements. Everyone's excited. Kandinsky.
And also what we
Maybe one by one and louder, so people hear us too. Yes.
This looks like a blender.
You see the dessert and then the dessert plants. Nice. And what else?
A.
You see
A.
A, the letter A. Or I, you see the I. Yeah. The blue I.
We see a bacteria.
You see what?
Bacteria.
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 Bacteria. Part.
Okay, we can continue.
So, abstract art, as we saw, offers a wide space for viewers to assign personal meanings to the work. In this type of art, instead of clear and defined images, a gap is left for the viewer. This gap allows the triggering of pareidolic perception and imagination also. Artists like Vasily Kandinsky and Joan Miro enhance pareidolic perception in their abstract works by stimulating the viewer's inner world. The viewer creates familiar elements in their mind within random shapes, colors, and lines. Abstract art pushes the boundaries of individual perception, taking the viewer on an inner journey, and this process is directly linked to pareidolia, creativity, and unconscious and perception. So, thank you very much for listening to me, and best of luck with your term project. If you have any questions,
Yes, do you have any questions? It's a good chance to ask now. Anything you wonder about Pareidolia? All right. All right. Do you have any questions?
Actually,
Yeah.
before I heard something about Pareidolia, it's a health problem. But now we talk about it.
Mm-hmm. You told before it was a problem. It says it was a psychological problem. She heard one of our students, and now she's surprised that it wasn't. And kind of maybe you're happy because you see kind of stuff when you look at objects.
That normal see something and contact other
Uh-huh.
things. But before I heard, it's a problem.
Uh-huh. So is it a problem? Maybe we may ask again. Is it a problem to see such things?
could you direct me the question because I cannot hear her.
So she wonders if, I mean, she heard that before earlier. She heard that it is a problem to see pareidolia shapes on the objects or on other stuff. But now she thinks that it wasn't a problem. So she wanted to ask why it was considered as a problem earlier, why she heard that way.
Actually, it depends on the situation and the person, I think, because if you don't diagnose with some disorder, then it's okay to, I mean, if every time you see, like, for instance, when looking at something that you have to pay attention, for instance, you're driving. And let's say that when you're driving, you're seeing the objects as they are not supposed to, let's say. So you're seeing the objects differently from they are. So this is another thing. So if you're not diagnosed with something, it's okay to see shapes in pareidolic way. Can you hear me?
I understand. It's okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So so maybe before they were before the diagnostic manual, they were mismatching the criteria and thought maybe when you see this, okay, just you are basically you have lost your mind, kinda. So, but for this, I don't think so because this is art, so it's open for interpretation and perception. Also, it does not have to be pareidolic. So when you draw something from your mind also, it's the same thing basically. So if you're not diagnosed or not under medication, not under drugs, it's okay. It's not a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Someone's brain or frontal lobe is damaged, will they still experience pareidolia?
Good question.
She needs because
Which lobes, Ekin, could you repeat?
she's coming for us.
Okay.
Mhm.
If someone's frontal lobe or brain is damaged, will they experience pareidolia or no?
It depends on the situation again, because we have gyruses and sulcuses in our brain, and some areas that are specified. Thank you for your question, by the way, and coming to here. So some parts are specified for some cognitive abilities. So if there's a lesion, stroke, or it's damaged by TBI, traumatic brain injury, and so on, or dementia, or many other neuropsychological, neurological conditions, it depends. So not every time we can say, okay, it's okay that you see those shapes. I mean, but they're not here. So when you look at a blank paper and you see something, if you see something, that may be a problem. So it depends on the damage, I would say.
Oh. Any other question? Everyone thinking schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Now we are thinking, are we schizophrenia or not?
Like in this situation,
Yes, with the pareidolia.
well, for some artists, they, you know better than me, but they are told that they have some psychological conditions going on. So even there is a discussion if we should treat those, but no, then we shouldn't, because then they can't do their work. So I think this again depends, not all the time. It depends on the situation. It depends on the, for instance, if you have to focus on your environment when you are crossing the road, in dangerous situations. If you see in those situations, instead of the real environment, in front of you, that may be a problem, because it can harm you. You can die. If you see something else, it's basically hallucination. So pareidolia is different than seeing hallucinations, I think. So apart from each other, very apart.
Do you have any questions? Yes, one more?
Come and ask.
Yeah, please.
You
No.
know, how come random things and shapes and drawings can be art? It's, it's a little confusing for me.
I think this is an art question. So we, in order to understand that, we need to see who considers these art. So for all artists, I don't know about that. So if people are all perceiving the same thing as an art piece, I think it's like the common thing we can say. It's universal. If it's universal, if it says something to everyone in the world, doesn't matter the culture, religion, ethnicity, and so on. So we can consider it as an art piece, I can say. So if you have any ideas, also you can share.
This question afternoon conference, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Ask again.
So. Any more questions you wonder about it? No, are we done? Maybe we need to get ready for the practice. So can you hear me now? Can you see me? Maybe I should come there.
I can see, but the voice is cracking a little bit. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It was a very inspiring and it was really fun to see the examples on the presentation, and it was really introductive for us to hear about a new word actually. And it was really, really important for our first grade students to think about the five senses while they are observing their around, their environment. They need to use their five senses to feel it on its most intense way. So we need to practice this a lot for this beginning year, and it was a good start for all of us. Now we will happily try to see new things on the regular stuff on the campus. We will go to the campus and try to find new meanings on the regular objects. So thank you very much for your
Thank you very
time,
much.
for your
Thank you.
effort. It's
Thank you
really
very
nice to
much.
meet you.
Nice to meet you and see you in Antalya in one day, I hope. Thank you for having me. Bye. Have fun.
Bye bye.